Two significant developments today in one of Colorado's best-known unsolved killings. An autopsy outlined how Suzanne Morphew died, and our Mark Salinger learned that the troubled district attorney has been taken off the case.
My name is Linda Stanley. I'm the district attorney for the 11th Judicial District.
It's been almost 3 years since District Attorney Linda Stanley brought charges against Barry Morphew, accusing him of killing his wife Suzanne. 3 years later, no one has been convicted, the case is still open, and now Stanley will no longer be the lead prosecutor. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation tells us the district attorney in Saguache County, Ann Kelly, will handle the case moving forward, including any prosecution.
Since the remains were found, we have been asking whether or not Linda Stanley is involved anymore in this case as a prosecutor or in any way, shape, or form.
Jane Fisher-Byrie-Elson is an attorney representing Barry Morphew. Barry's murder charges were dropped by DA Stanley just days before the case was set for trial last year. In the month since, Stanley has been accused of hiding evidence from defense attorneys and launching a secret investigation into the judge's family.
Do you trust Linda Stanley to find the real killer?
No. I do not trust Linda Stanley to find the real killer.
A new prosecutor will take over the case after Suzanne's remains were found last year in Saguache County, just outside of Moffett. Today we learn new evidence investigators will use in the case. An autopsy report confirms Suzanne died in a homicide. Tests found she had sedatives and tranquilizers in her bones, usually used on animals. That's important. For years now, investigators have alleged that Barry shot his wife with a tranquilizer before killing her after he found out she was having an affair. The plastic cap of a tranquilizer was found at the Morphew house after Suzanne went missing. Speaking only to 9 News today, Barry's attorney says anyone could have shot the tranquilizer.
The tranquilizer that was found in her bones, allegedly, is a very common animal tranquilizer that could be used on farms or by hunters, which are people that are very prevalent in that area in Salida.
Details that a new prosecutor will have to investigate.
We have no idea whether investigators have any suspects in this case right now. Barry's attorneys asked whether he is a suspect still, but they were not told yes or no. A couple of weeks ago, the coroner allowed Barry to take Suzanne's remains home. He was advised by his attorneys not to, and they are still with the coroner.
What a mess. Okay, so this DA, Linda Stanley, still in office, not on this case. What's next for her?
Correct. She is not leading the case. That is now Ann Kelly in the 12th Judicial District. Linda Stanley, however, does have a case coming up, her own, in front of the Supreme Court. That trial is expected to start in June, whether or not she'll keep her law license because there were so many complaints of how she handled this specific Morphew case.
You've been on it every step of the way. Mark, thank you. After a series of mishaps by Republicans with their handguns at the state capitol, dropping them, leaving them behind, Democrats today passed a bill banning legislators from bringing their guns to work. It's part of a larger bill that bans carrying guns in what they call sensitive spaces like courthouses and schools. If the governor signs this into law, it'd be punishable with a misdemeanor and a $250 fine. This is a vastly watered-down version of what Democrats first wanted. The original bill would have banned open and concealed carry in most public buildings and spaces, including parks. Two holdouts kept former Clear Creek Sheriff's Deputy Andrew Buin from a murder conviction for the killing of Christian Glass. And today, prosecutors announced they will try again after last week's hung jury. The jury did find Buin guilty of reckless endangerment. No verdict on 2 counts, second-degree murder and official misconduct. There's no doubt about it. Buin shot and killed Glass in June of 2022. Glass got in his car stuck in Silver Plume, and he called 911 for help while he was having a mental health crisis. The jury foreperson spoke with our Steve Stager and said that Buin's guilt was clear as day after they saw the body camera video. Christy Engelkirk said that 2 jurors did not want to convict on murder, and there was 1 holdout on a lesser charge of criminally negligent homicide. She said that 1 juror appeared to have a bias that law enforcement could do no wrong, and she questioned why somebody like that got on a jury.
I would like answers. I definitely would. I don't know for certain if there was an agenda. I just have my perception of how they were acting and things that they were saying. So I think if there ultimately is more evidence that's found to show that, then, that's up to the DA and judge what they want to do with that.
Judge set the trial for August. Here's an interesting thing to watch. Part of the challenge with the first trial was finding jurors who didn't know a lot about that case in a relatively small county. I mean, 1 in 6 people in Clear Creek County got a jury summons. So I was curious whether prosecutors might ask for a change of venue to find an impartial jury, given what just happened. Our legal analyst Scott Robinson tells me he has never heard of that happening, but it is not specifically prohibited like it is in some other states where only the defense can ask. Robinson told me that it's much more common in Colorado for the judge to make that change of venue decision unilaterally if the judge is worried about seating a jury. So Xcel is out with a new defense of its decision to preemptively shut off power to 50,000 Coloradans during high winds recently. It is a minute-by-minute accounting of their communication as Xcel prepares to answer to state regulators next week. Our Marshall Zellinger noted that one Coloradan did get a heads up that Xcel was going to shut off the lights. The governor.
Blackouts on Pearl Street in Boulder usually mean something involving alcohol, but earlier this month, it was a purposeful power shutoff by Xcel Energy.
I have some pretty eerie pictures of Pearl Street in the dark.
Bettina Swigger is the CEO of the Downtown Boulder Partnership, which conducted a survey with the Boulder Chamber. That survey resulted in real-time feedback from 94 Boulder businesses. Collectively, they reported $1.3 million in lost revenue from the April 6 power shutoff and almost $250,000 in wages not being paid to employees.
We would love to see some kind of business interruption mitigation impact fund that might be set up for future outages.
And the overwhelming sentiment from that survey? The word communication. Those business owners want better communication from Xcel.
It would have been helpful to have at least 48 hours of notice, and it certainly would have been helpful just to have more communication in general and more accurate communication, including maps.
The Boulder Business Survey was provided to the Colorado Public Utilities Commission ahead of next week's hearing about Xcel's intentional power shutoff. Xcel has also submitted a timeline of its decision-making, what it knew and when. Its first reference to PSPS, Public Safety Power Shutoff, is Friday, April 5th at 6:30 a.m. At 12:30 p.m. on that Friday, the governor's chief of staff was warned it might happen. Between 5 and 5:30 p.m., Governor Jared Polis was told. And then at 8:30 the next morning, the governor's chief of staff was told the power shutoff will happen, along with a list of impacted areas and estimated counts of impacted customers. Today, I asked Polis if he had a responsibility to notify the public about what he knew, especially since Xcel had not been public with specifics.
We were not provided with exact maps or indications of who would lose it. We were told about 50,000 homes. That was the level that was notified to me.
20 minutes ago, I got a little more from the governor's office just sent to my phone, adding that the governor's office is not a utility provider nor utility regulator and does not have a list of Xcel customers, but it's clear the company must do more to notify and improve communication with its customers. That's one of the reasons this hearing is taking place next week. It's really getting Xcel called to the principal's office, having to defend its position and come up with ways that it's not going to happen the same way again.
That's a sassy response from the governor's office, Marshall. I don't think you were implying that the governor should have picked up his phone and started calling Xcel customers. But I think the question is, if the governor knows that Xcel is about to do something that's going to impact a lot of Coloradans, he would be in a unique position to tell Xcel, like, hey, you should tell people.
And as a resident that might have been affected in Boulder, we've done other open records requests where we've seen other jurisdictions got some sort of map, even though it wasn't great, earlier in that morning. And Xcel in their timeline admits they didn't put the first public map out there until 8:30 p.m. Power went off at 3 p.m.
This is interesting stuff because, I mean, we get why they're doing it. They're doing it for public safety, but how they do it also matters. So that's the reason why you've been covering it so intensely. Marshall, thank you. One of the most talked about politicians in America right now is headlining a fundraiser for the Jeffco Republicans next week. Usually that would be a good thing, but people are talking about South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem because she bragged about shooting her puppy. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem comes to Colorado this week as she's making national headlines for saying that her decision to kill her unruly puppy was a sign of her leadership skills. Noem said that she hated the dog because it wasn't a good hunting dog and it killed her neighbor's chickens. Noem chose to write about the dog's killing as well as her shooting of a goat that annoyed her in her forthcoming book, which you'll get a signed copy of if you buy a nearly $3,000 VIP ticket for the Jeffco Republican fundraiser Saturday in Golden, home of Golden's in Golden, an annual event drawing thousands of pet owners who have not shot their dogs. Governor Noem happens to be coming to Colorado on the day of this dog-loving state's largest animal fundraiser of the year, the Furry Scurry at Washington Park. Jeffco Republican organizers are embracing the controversy around Noem to sell tickets, writing, I'm certain that Christie will share her perspective on the animal killings at the Jeffco Republicans fundraiser event this Saturday. Don't miss out. The Jeffco Republican Party said this afternoon that the fundraiser is a private event, so journalists will not be allowed inside to cover Governor Noem's comments. Democratic State Senator Faith Winter may face an ethics complaint from the city of North Glen for showing up drunk to a public meeting there. Winter announced the next day that she was entering rehab. Our partners at Colorado Politics report that North Glen City Council will discuss the possibility of an ethics complaint Wednesday. The resolution says that Senator Winter failed to uphold her office with integrity and has lost confidence with the public. If the ethics complaint is filed by North Glen, it would then go to the state Senate president for investigation. Week after week, your generosity makes this state a better place. Your latest Word of Thanks microgiving campaign raised $18,000 in a couple of days for CASA volunteers in every corner of the state. They're the court-appointed advocates for kids who have been abused or neglected. And the $18,000 is just the start, because then in come your monthly donations to the Word of Thanks Fund. When those get split up, they added almost $20,000 to every weekly microgiving campaign last month. You've raised about $12.5 million for Colorado's nonprofits through your microgiving. If you know of an impactful nonprofit anywhere in our state that could use our help, email me next at 9news.com. Police told him to get out. The mayor told him to go. Pro-Palestinian protesters on the Auraria campus are staying, which is leading a college to change how classes will be held. Colorado's Constitution still bans same-sex marriage, just sits there not being enforced. Republicans have joined Democrats in moving to get that out of the Constitution. And he has a passion for building. 2,000 bricks later, he's recreated his favorite skyscraper. The governor has struck a truce between environmentalists and the oil and gas industry, just as he did years ago. This latest is to avoid expensive ballot fights over fossil fuel issues. The plan is light on specifics so far, but Democratic leaders say that it would implement new fees on oil and gas production, with most of that money going to public transit. The compromise is an effort to avoid stricter rules on drilling and ozone levels, like an effort that failed earlier this year that would have straight up stopped oil and gas drilling years into the future. The governor says both sides have agreed that they'll support this deal and back off some of their ballot proposals. The legislature would have to pass the deal before the session ends next week. Pro-Palestinian protesters are still camped out on the Auraria campus after they weathered this weekend's rain and snow and got through their first confrontation with police on Friday. Officers gave them the ultimatum that they had to leave Friday. The mayor came out and told them to go, but there's been no enforcement of it, so they're still there. This is day 5 of the protests. Now, students were back out on campus today preparing for their final week of classes, but students with Community College of Denver, one of the 3 colleges on the campus, they're going to move to remote classes as of 5 o'clock today. MSU Denver and CU Denver say they are operating their classes normally. Police arrested about 40 people Friday, and Auraria says some of those arrested were students and faculty. Others did not appear to have any tie to campus. Democrats in the state Senate got some help from Republicans as they try to strip a clause out of the state constitution that still defines marriage as between one man and one woman. That measure passed the Senate today with support from 6 Republicans. They needed Republican support to clear the 2/3 threshold needed to pass. Right now, the state's constitution says only a union of one man and one woman shall be valid or recognized as marriage in this state. That has not been enforceable since the 2015 Supreme Court ruling that legalized same-sex marriage nationwide. The state House still has to give approval. That's expected. They've got a Democratic supermajority there, so this is likely to go to voters for a final say on November 5th. Why is it happening? Well, Democrats are concerned that a conservative majority on the Supreme Court could eventually roll back the right to same-sex marriage after overturning abortion rights.
How great. Sunshine, 60s and 70s to start the week after a cold and stormy weekend. And we go even warmer tomorrow. We've been watching folks skiing this afternoon up at the Loveland ski area. And we've got a little snow in the forecast for the mountains in the next 24 to 48 hours. We have a warm day tomorrow, but a midweek storm brings thunderstorms back in on Wednesday and cooler weather with a chance for showers Thursday. 68, that was the best we could do in Denver. 71, though, in Greeley and almost 80 in southeastern Colorado. This is the system upstream here coming our way from the northwest. Our weekend storm still creating just that thunderstorm threat that extends from Chicago, St. Louis, Memphis, down to the Gulf Coast region. We're not seeing a lot on the radar in terms of thunderstorms for Colorado, but there are a few snow showers in the high country. Thunderstorm threat low tomorrow. Severe weather threat will be growing on Tuesday, mainly east of Colorado. We have a few clouds rolling through tonight and tomorrow, but all the moisture stays way up high. We have a wonderful temperature trend this evening. If you're out and about, temperatures in the 60s, dropping into the 50s, and we have a 72-degree high for Tuesday, 70 Wednesday with scattered storms, cooler with rain Thursday, and then a beautiful weekend to look forward to. Sunshine and 70s for Saturday and Sunday.
You know, I should just try building something again just for fun because I had nothing to do.
Boredom can be great inspiration. A pastor with passions beyond preaching set out on a new project. There's just something about building with blocks, a part of every childhood that becomes a part of a lot of adulthoods too. Like the pastor from Colorado who, when he's not in the business of pastoring, puts together block after block after block.
Yeah, it's the like a Voltron. My passion with it is it's a great creative outlet. Hi, I'm Brian Roby. I'm the family pastor here at Highline Community Church. So I oversee all the family ministry, basically for kids, middle schoolers, and high schoolers. Plaza Tower 1 has always been my favorite building in Denver. Growing up, when I drive by it on the freeway, I just thought it was a really cool building, just the way it looked and just how different it was from all the other architecture in Denver. And I've always said, I wonder how I would build that if I were to make it out of Lego. Did it, and did a couple different prototypes, and eventually came up with what I got. So this is Plaza Tower 1. It's probably somewhere over 2,000 bricks. I kind of started initial drawings and plannings of it in November. And one of the big things was just having to figure out just how many bricks I would need. And apparently when this building was originally designed, it was designed by Chevron, and the architect wanted to make it look like an oil well that was sprouting up and spraying oil. What's been cool over the last 20 plus years is Lego's made it a little bit easier for adults to still like Lego and not be looked at as weird. So it's cool how the love of Lego and ministry can intersect. I think anytime you're trying to make a connection with kids, especially, it's good to be able to utilize the materials and the tools that they already like.
That building's supposed to look like an oil derrick, spouting oil. Huh, how about that? You learn something new every day on this show. That's what we try to do. Hey, we're back with your feedback about the politician bragging about killing a puppy. Feedback from Bill. Xcel tried to avoid fires, and that's good. Stop trying to persecute them for everything. Bill, it's not persecution, it's just important, right? What Xcel does is important, and it's important that it's done safely and also in the best possible way, which is why we're going to continue to keep watching. Stacy says, does the Jefferson County Republican Party not understand the adulation that Coloradans feel for their dogs? This is an interesting strategy, bringing in Governor Kristi Noem. I tend to agree, but Scott says she can't train a puppy. How could she be trusted to be president if the situation arose? Well, she'd shoot it.